All right, here he is, the man, the myth, the king of scripts and dialogues, Tom Panos. He's come into Plum Property today for a session, a great training session. What are we going to focus on today?
Today, we're going to talk about something very important that you raised. We were going to talk about it as about 20%, but we're going to talk about 100% because it's all about relationships.
That's right. To be successful in real estate, you have to start with building relationships and never stop. That is how the great agents build pipeline. They have people to consistently call them to list properties, and eventually you get to the stage where people want to contact you that don't even know you. So we're going to focus on how to get to that level today with the man, Tom Panos. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's give him a big round of applause for Tom Panos. Here he is.
And Dan, I want to ask you, how many years have you been doing real estate now?
I was in sales since I started when I was 22. That was in 2007. All right. Yes, I'm 40 now, and I did sales up until the end of financial year 22. So that was 16 years, if I remember correctly. If I add that up correctly, yeah, 16 years of sales.
Okay. So I want to ask, pretend this is your first year in real estate and you got the job and they said you start work on what's today's date, 14? You start work on the 14th of January 2025, but let's pretend that you've now got all the knowledge that you've picked up since 2007.
Yep.
Right? I want to ask you, what would you be doing today, tomorrow, and the next 3 months, this first quarter of this year, to ramp you up, particularly for the people here that are less than 1 or 2 years? I call them emerging agents, associates. They have various jobs, but Dan and I agree that one of the most important jobs that they can do is provide access into people's living rooms for you to have a conversation. So your associate's primary role is to be able to get you into some living rooms that you wouldn't get, because you already get, like, you know, Richard gets a certain amount of people that call him up, friends, family, past clients, referrals, they bought off him. But there's a hell of a lot of people that are doing 3 or 4 agent trials, right? What would you be doing if you were an associate right now, starting off 17 years later?
Really good question. I'm going to stand over here.
Yeah.
So can I get a hands up? Who's first year in real estate here? First 12 months. All right, cool. We've got a good handful of you. So I'm assuming most of you, or all of you, are on a team. So there is a lead agent on your team, and you're helping them with all sorts of stuff, maybe open homes, buyer callbacks, some levels of prospecting, etc. I can tell you one thing. What you've got to get really good at is being able to identify opportunities and produce opportunities for your team to build relationships. Because once you go out on your own as an agent, I can tell you no one's going to call you. Real estate does not work like this. You do not walk into a real estate, get a job, and then all of a sudden your phone rings and people want to sell their house with you. Your friends and family don't even want to sell their house with you. All right? No one wants to sell their house with someone that has never sold a house before. And not only that, when you finally do get an opportunity when you're a new agent, it's much harder to convert that listing because you don't have runs on the board. You don't have a profile. People will look you up before you come over to meet them in the living room, or once you've left the living room, to just have a look. Okay, I quite like that man or woman. Let's just have a look at what they've done. Oh, they've got 0 sales on the board. That's a bit concerning. Maybe I'll just go with that other agent that I don't even particularly like, but at least they've got a track record. So what you have to get really good at as an associate is finding opportunities and building relationships. Because when you finally go out on your own, that's all you've got to do. You don't have listings and sales. So what I would focus on if it was in my first year and I was just given a job as a real estate agent is I would find all my offices sold properties and just listed properties, and if I was given a particular area to work in, which normally that is the case, I would find all the sold properties in the last 3 months, I would find all the listings that the office has listed in the past 3 months, and I would focus on building relationships, getting indoors around those listings and sales as a topic of conversation. And probably the easiest calls, and I see this in my office, we've got fantastic agents in our office that make a lot of just listed, a lot of just sold calls. Those are the easiest calls you can make as an associate or a new agent. It's some quick information about a property in someone's street or nearby their house that can spark a conversation. That conversation then leads into a conversation about giving them some information about their property. You might then get an objection about why they don't need this update from you, but then you handle that objection and eventually you get your foot in the door, or you get the opportunity to at least send them a curbside appraisal or something like that. That is the start of a relationship. It may not be very much right now, but it's a seed that's been planted. And then you need to water that seed. That watering of that seed is a 6-monthly call. It's the brochure in the mail. It's the monthly newsletter. It's the yearly update again on their property, time and time again, until that person actually thinks of you as the agent that they need to contact when they want to do something. So all I would focus on if I was a brand new agent is creating as many relationships as I can of owners within a particular area that I want to service, as many as I can. And then I would nurture those relationships. Now, you're not going to get immediate success. This is not a game of immediate success. Any successful agent in this game, go and ask them what their first 2 years was like. Most of them will say, I almost quit. I was going home wondering whether or not I should even be doing this. You know, Liz Browning, classic example, first year in real estate, about 8 years ago, was it, Liz? How much money did you make?
11 years ago.
11 years ago. Made $7,000 in her first 12 months. Today, her team writes over $2 million in GCI. It's not an overnight success game, but I'll tell you, if you work consistently on the tasks that I've just told you, the bell curve goes like this. Once you reach a critical mass where you have a good solid market share and a significant amount of relationships within an area, it just starts to snowball like crazy. And that's when you've got to focus on other things like, how do I build a team? How do I train my associates to be able to, you know, keep up with the amount of prospecting that we've got going whilst we've got all of these listings? And you need to think more about scaling your current situation. So there's my long-winded answer about what I would do.
And can I ask, who is a lead agent and has got their associate here with them today? So the lead agent put their hand up. Okay. Because I think one of the things that I do want to cover as well is often a lead agent has been trained to find vendors, educate vendors, put a deal together, a little bit of prospecting, but they often haven't spent time in their life, depending on their background, in keeping a person accountable, energizing that person, catching them doing things right, catching them doing things wrong, nudging them along the way, having the art of having a really quality one-on-one meeting. And a quality one-on-one meeting, because I can tell you some one-on-one meetings, Dan, they sit down, oh, hey, how'd you go? Yeah, I made 25 calls. Oh, couldn't you make any more? Oh, no, I got busy. I was running around with a lot of buyers. Yeah, what else? Oh, 12 Smith Street, I've got to get out there quickly, blah, blah, blah. Meeting finishes. I mean, talking about a quality one-on-one. I mean, I had one 2 days ago, and I said to the agent, I go, and I have to tell you, a lot of the agents that show up, perfectly manicured, facades, exquisite. But if I do 25 to 35 one-on-ones, 90% on Zoom, I'm used to when I say, how are you feeling? How are you? Sometimes I'll say, are you feeling as good on the inside as you look on the outside? That's a good question. I'll say I'm fine. Fine as in freaking out, irrational, neurotic, emotional. Because I've got to tell you, at the other extent, those that are working really, really hard, you're working long hours. And long hours is complicated, right? And I want to touch on that. I also want to touch on Dan, and I think it's going to be a natural segue. I mean, fundamentally, I make a living and get paid by you and by a lot of people in real estate to tell people to do something that they're already aware that they should be doing. It's not like new information. It appears that the role of a trainer, educator, coach, consultant, call it what you like, principal, is to nudge you along the way to do the things that you know are good for you, but for whatever reason you don't want to do, or you procrastinate, or for some reason you just don't get it done on a consistent basis. And I'd love to put it to the people, and I'd love you to work in a little group of 2 or 3, 4 people. I'd like you to start thinking yourselves, because you'll learn a lot more if you ask the question yourself, not just listen to me as if you're watching Stan or Netflix, you know? So have a chat amongst yourselves. What are the fundamental reasons you think that real estate agents, both lead agents and also associates, because Dan and I spoke just beforehand, what we thought, if you're just a plain associate that is out there prospecting, and that's your key role, 40 connections a day, Dan said, I think would be something that you can expect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Elaborate on that.
Well, I mean, people like to talk about how many calls to make in a day, 100 calls. I think it's better to focus on connections, because 100 calls could equal actually 20 connections or 40 connections. There's a lot of voicemails. If you're calling from an unrecognized number, people are less likely to pick up, especially so cold calling. But 40 connections a day for an associate is very reasonable, very achievable. And I know there's associates out there probably on Josh Teslin's team that are doing 150 a day, absolute maniacs. So if you're not doing 40 connections a day as an associate, there's some things going wrong. Either one, you're finding tasks.
So I'd love to identify them, you know, to talk.
Yeah.
To talk. So put it out there. What do you reckon, Dan? The things that stop people from doing this.
You know, focusing on a Facebook post rather than making sure they get their calls done.
So I'm going to touch on that. I'll call it digital dementia. There's a bunch of real estate agents that have heard some story, probably some, you know, fast-talking marketer on TikTok that has said, listen, the way to do it, this is the fast track. Just, you know, go off and do it all on, you know, digital. Whereas we clearly know, and it's no guesswork, the franchise groups, all the awards, the top agents, they all seem to have that common denominator. They seem to meet more people and go into more living rooms and go into more appraisals. And I've got to tell you, if you're a lead agent, 25 appraisals, I'm talking about, like, they don't have to be immediate sellers, but I'm talking about you go in there and they say, come in. Not some of these appraisals that, you know, you see some of these social media appraisals that people generate, they rock up and the people say, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you've pressed a button. I'm talking about 25 decent quality conversations at people's living rooms is going to get you probably around $1 million in GCI as a lead agent. That's what it will be. So digital dementia is a serious issue that people think that sending text and email blasts actually count as part of prospecting.
Yeah, and look, it has some value, but if we have a list of, you know, box ticks of what tasks to get through on a day, if you're an associate, I can tell you doing a Facebook post is probably number 19 on the list, right? That's the kind of stuff that should be done once the calls have definitely been done. Doing a Facebook post does not build a relationship. And I have a lot of social media experience. People out there in the real estate world think that I was a great agent because I did funny videos. It's a total load of shit. But my funny videos and my property videos didn't get me that many listings. What got me listings was years and years and years of developing hundreds and hundreds of relationships within a specific area. And then I pepper that advertising on top to all those people just so that they see me more, they see what I'm doing, they recognize me. Yes, they get to know my personality a little bit more through the videos and that sort of thing. But if I hadn't had a connection with them prior to them seeing those Facebook posts, doesn't mean they're going to call me at all. In fact, I don't think they ever did. So before you go and spend time wasting it on your awesome Facebook posts and spending 45 minutes doing that, you're far better off doing 20, 30 connections, getting that out of the way. And if it's the Facebook post that doesn't get done for the day, but the calls are done, then you've done a good job. And you're going to be a great agent if you consistently think like that, have that sort of mentality that the priorities are taken care of first. The relationship building tasks are taken care of first.
So team, let's go through. I want to list these. Digital dementia, or people that have a narrative that think to themselves, you know, it's all social selling, right? Social media works in combination, not isolated by itself. What are the other things? What are the other things that stop people from, like when we leave here today and we want to go out there and start having conversations in the marketplace, and I can tell you, the first thing you've got to do is shift your mindset that they are prospects. They're not prospects, they're students. The minute you see people as students, you move from being a hustling salesperson to becoming a trusted advisor, educator. And I've got to tell you, education is the biggest influence and transformation. People feel like I'm being educated, I'm being told what's happening in my area, I'm being told what the value of my home is now, what it will be in the future. I'm getting an understanding of the kind of people that are buying in this area. I'm understanding what the market wants when you're selling. Basically, you want to become the newsreader of your core marketplace. And what Dan said before about, hey, go out there and become their agent before they need an agent. So when I first started in real estate, a guy by the name of Wes Ausnet, my boss, said to me, Tom, I need you to understand, I want you to picture listings as apples. And there are two ways that you're going to collect these apples. You're either going to wait till they fall on the ground and then 10 real estate agents are all going to run in fighting for them and actually losing credibility in the process and dropping their fee to actually have a chance to get their attention, or you'll intelligently go pick up the apple before it's fallen off the tree and start a relationship with it then. Does that make sense? So the question is, why do we struggle with the concept of becoming their agent before they need an agent? One of those is we might get distracted with that Facebook ad or that video. What else is it? Fear? Okay, let's... Fear of what?
The fear of rejection is what stops people and makes people procrastinate on that job.
Okay, so Dan, let's discuss that. The fear. So, what are the worst consequences of a phone call? No, abuse is probably the next level down.
Yep.
That would be no, okay, or fuck off. Okay, that's probably worse.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. After there's anything else worse than that?
Probably like, where'd you get my number? You know, oh, I'm going to report you. You know, that could happen. That's probably the worst of the worst. That's a 0.01%, you know.
Okay, so it doesn't happen regularly.
It doesn't happen
regularly. And if it does happen, we can cope with that, right?
Yes. Well, many can't. That's the thing.
Okay, so let's talk about that. This issue about why, and I get it, it's not good to have people not like you. But I also accept one thing. I've asked for it because I've interrupted them.
Yeah.
So I need to be prepared to live with those consequences. If I'm interrupting people, I've got to get comfortable that there could be resistance with a great cohort of those people. And if you feel comfortable with that equation, life's going to be good. But if you feel constantly I am bugging them. I'm annoying them. I don't want this happening to me. You will find your life will be a total consistent of prospect, don't prospect, ad hoc, one and done. Whereas if you turn around and create a new narrative and say, I'm not interrupting people. I'm actually giving them information that I think is useful for them as a homeowner. So I will never call them other than educate them. In the process, I hope I earn the right where they think, shit, he's not like any typical agent. He doesn't have the commission breath. He seems to actually make a phone call and, you know, I mean, I know he's in sales, but he's not sitting there hammering me every day, put your home on the market, put your home on the market. So I think fear of rejection, and I've got to tell you, Dan, when I travel around the traps and I run into people that were once real estate agents that are now not real estate agents, and there's a big group of those. I mean, let's face it, it's a low barrier to entry. If you've got a pulse rate and you're vertical, you're in real estate, right? You can get in. So the truth is the audience numbers are high, so the dropout is also high. So the question is, when I run into these people and I ask them, what happened? Why are you no longer in real estate? Why are you working at the Oxford shop at Brisbane Airport? Why are you working at JB Hi-Fi at Pacific Fair? What's the reason? And the fundamental reason is that JB Hi-Fi, the person comes up and says, I want to buy an iPad Air. Whereas in real estate, you're ringing people up and you're saying, hey, Dan, it's Tom Panos here from Plum. I know you're not selling and I'm going to be brief, but the reason I'm calling is because. And some people are going to say, I'm too busy, not interested, not selling. Now's not a good time. And you've got to feel comfortable with that and move on to the next call, knowing that the next one might be the same. And then the next one might be the same. And the next one might be worse. And the next one, there won't be an answer. And the next one are going to say, we're renting the property. And you're going to go on. And then all of a sudden, after 2.5 hours of long grind, someone says, so what do you think, by the way, the market's like at the moment? You reckon put it on now or after the election? And you think, fuck, elation. So 95% of the stuff we're doing is monotonous and no different to an Olympic swimmer swimming down that black line, up and down, boring. Get comfortable with being boring. Other reasons. So fear. What else? Distractions. Is that you, Rich, you said? What distractions? Can I get people to start throwing, what are the distractions that get in the way?
Mate, getting a brochure created, because I'm going to go and drop 1,000 brochures, so I'll spend 2 hours making a brochure instead of doing my calls.
Yeah. So low dollar productive activity, pretty much an admin-based role,
yeah.
Probably worth around $15, $20 an hour, where you should be doing $100, $200 an hour activities.
Yeah. And again, not saying you shouldn't letterbox drop, but I'll tell you, letterbox drop is a very low performing activity. You can drop 1,000 letterbox drops, you've got to create the brochure, you've got to print it, you've got to fold it, someone's got to walk the streets, and 95% of the time you get 0 calls from it and 0 relationships are made, and you've spent 4 to 5 hours doing that.
So the difference, Dan, the rejection rate on letterbox drops is significant. The only difference is that you don't hear it like the phone conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's significant. Like you'll do 16,000 and 15,888 are just throwing it in the bin. Again, I want to preface, letterbox drops does not mean they don't get done. They are working in combination. Every agent needs to have what I call their core 4. Their core 4 is that they're these default 4 things. They're their go-to methods that get them into doors. Now, if you're an attraction agent, a pinnacle agent, the truth is your brand is part of your core 4. Another one of your core 4 would be your past clients and referrals. But if you are an associate, your core 4 is very different. Your core is going to be very cold and transactional. And it will actually be you reaching out versus them reaching to you. You'll be prospecting them. They won't be prospecting you. That will happen later. What are the other reasons, team? What are some of the other distractions, by the way? Dan touched on staff. So staff's another one. I mean, we've got to accept it that you've got people that come to you and they say, have you got a minute? And it's never a minute. So it's having the ability, and that is another challenge when you are a selling principal. And the good news is the research is out there now. If you're going to make the most money in real estate, you need a director's EBU in a little business unit. You make a little bit of money on other people and you make money as your own EBU. Most of the money will be made in your own EBU. That is the model. I can tell you, I see real estate businesses with $20 million GCI and their profit at the end of it is less than $2 million. And I see people, that's because they're not selling themselves. And I see people that just basically have an army of soldiers doing the work. They've probably got an easier life, right? And they don't make anywhere near as someone that's got a small little business writing $4 or $5 million, bit of a rent roll there, right? Their EBU's writing the big bucks, but let's keep going. Is there anything else that is stopping people from going off? Because one of the things that I'd love is the associates to walk away from this session today saying, that's it, I'm in for 200 calls, connections a week. 200 connections a week. That's what I'm signing up for. And I've got to tell you, I reckon, Dan, what would you say the time it would take to do that?
I think it would be three hours of calls a day, solid, for 5 days a week.
Okay. So, team, I'm going to shout out some rules that you can capture down on your mobile phones, capture on your notes that are going to be very helpful. They're going to reinforce to you what I think the basic rules of prospecting are. So here goes. Rule number 1 is everyone needs to accept there is a very basic rule. I say it over and over again. My most important rule, it's called the 30-day rule. And what the 30-day rule says is what I do in this 30 days affects the next 90 days. We are always working in 3-month blocks, and that there is a delayed gratification between our activities now. So a lot of real estate agents have come back to work January the 6th, thereabouts, and they are just floundering because what they did is not much in November and December. They took Christmas on the 25th of October or November, and they're paying a price in January. Those, of course, that went hard right to the end, that kept going, that made their end of year summary calls, that set up vendors to come onto the market as soon as they came back early January, are off and they're up in the air and they have momentum. And in real estate, you've either got momentum or you're trying to get off the runway. Off the runway is hard, there's no momentum. Being in altitude where you've got listings, just listed, just sold, life is effortless and it flows. So, rule number 1, 30-day rule. Rule number 2 in sales is this. What gets scheduled gets done. You're here this morning because in your calendar, your Gmail is an appointment. Morning was here. You're going to be at your opens on Saturday because they're scheduled. You're going to go to your listing presentation today at 5 o'clock because it's an appointment. We must treat prospecting with the same urgency as we have the other activities. What gets scheduled gets done. And you get that period of time, you time chunk it and you protect it. And you don't fall for the bullshit story where, oh, Tommy, I couldn't do it because I had a buyer that walked in. Buyers have to be the number one excuse why people move away from what they should do and move away to the thing that is comfortable. Can you relate to what I just said? Show of hands, team. So what we got to do is understand that something unimportant done well does not make that thing important. What's important? That we chunk away 2 to 3 hours every day and we hit through those calls. What are the reasons that we call? Here they are. We call to get an appointment. That's one reason we call. We call for the second reason, to clean the data. We don't know where they're at. A lot of these databases, Dan, we don't know where they're at. They could be, They could not be there anymore. They could have passed away. They could have gone to Darwin. We don't know. And the third reason why we call, it's a touch point. Frequency builds trust. So they're the three reasons that we call. And I also want to run through the three biggest reasons why people struggle with prospecting, and they all start with P. The first one is perfectionism. They're looking for that perfect sentence. They're looking for that perfect line. Oh, Tommy, what's that line? Listen, relax. The result of your phone call has already been worked out before you make the phone call. There's no pressure. Some people are there, some people are not. Some people are with you, some people are not. Some people are pissed off, some people are okay. Some people like to hear from you, some people don't. We play the numbers game. Real estate is arithmetic. That's what it is. First P is perfectionism. Second P is procrastination. Procrastination. I'll do it later. I'll do it once I've done this. I'll do it in the evening. Let me tell you, the cure to procrastination is go ugly early. Get it out of the way. The sooner you confront it, the sooner you cross that bridge, the better. You will not be prospecting at 6 o'clock at night if all day you have been finding excuses to delay it. Get it out of the way. And the third P is paralysis by overanalysis. You just sit there, Dan, and this happens all the time. They look at the data. What am I going to say to him?
That's a big one. When you got your call sheet, I think a big mistake a lot of agents make is they've got their laptop there, they look at the address, they look it up on RP data, they try and find out every single thing about the owner before they call them, and then they'll find a reason not to call the owner. Oh, they only bought it 12 months ago. They're not going to want to hear from me yet. People don't usually sell for at least 3 to 4 years. I'll skip that one.
So that's changed now, but Dan, since COVID, the immediacy of decisions of people, it's different, isn't it?
Of course, and the other thing is you never know someone's situation. There's so many sales that happen within 6 months, a year after people have bought them, because divorces happen, people get new jobs, people have an accidental baby and need to upgrade. There is 1,000 reasons why people move, and it's not always based on the 7-year, Australian time frame of average moving times. And touching on what you said before then about prospecting, I think it's just so important to realise that the agents that prospect the most win the most listings. And the people that win the most listings, they make the most money. If you took 2 agents, right, and one of them was exceptional at prospecting, and every single day they were consistent with their calls, every month they were consistent with their goals of how many appointments they booked for appraisals, regardless of if those people were selling or not. The point of the appointment is to build that foundation, that relationship, and they consistently did that. But they were terrible at selling. Their service was awful. They hardly called buyers back. Their vendor communication wasn't that great. They were pretty disheveled. They're late to their open homes. Every part of their sales process was pretty bad. But they were awesome at prospecting. They always did their calls and they always hit their numbers. And then you've got the other agent that avoids all that stuff. But once they get a listing, they do everything perfectly. They show up on time. They're awesome with their communication. They're great with the buyers. They look great. Their open homes are presented beautifully. But they never make any prospecting calls. I can guarantee you, if you come back in 2 years and have a look who's making more money, the person prospecting, that agent that's shit at all the other stuff but amazing at prospecting, is making 10 times the amount of money. Because the sale in real estate is not the sale of the house. The sale in real estate is you selling yourself to a vendor that you're the right person for the job, and getting that Form 6 signed.
Yeah. So actually, it's a good to draw it up. And those that are online, hopefully you can see what I'm about to draw. So this is the chart. Like if I had to draw the model in real estate and I had to simplify it, it's this. Conversations. Like the Cairo I met in Byron the other day, absolutely smashes it. Came from Sydney, goes to Byron Bay, decimates it. It's got the best life. I said to him, what's the secret? He said, the more people I meet, the more people I treat. I said, same with real estate. The more people I meet, the more people I treat. Same with real estate. The more people you're having conversations. Who's a prospect? Anyone that owns real estate in your core area, they're a prospect. If they're alive, they're a prospect. Okay, conversations leads to relationships, which you spoke about, Daniel, as we walked in today. All we're doing is building relationships. The girl or guy who has the most relationships wins in real estate. That's why time in the business is very important. Because the more time you're in the business, the more chance you're going to build these relationships. Once you've got relationships, becomes the listing presentation. Eventually they say, hey, we're selling. She's leaving me. And you get a little bit upset because you like them as a couple, but you're also a little bit, okay, opportunity. So you go over and do the listing presentation. So at this point, you've got to have a good presentation. You've got to have a pitch. You've got to have a story. As Dan says, your story. There's, how many people, Dan, typically, how many people go out to one vendor with their story?
You mean how many agents?
Agents.
I would say on average we're always up against at least one other, probably two. So let's say 3 agents.
3 agents. So you go out there and you got 3 agents. And I understand. Your story is going to be better than the person's story that's only been in real estate for 1 year. I understand that. I get it. Because if I was a vendor and someone, listen, if my daughter was going to have eye surgery, I would want the surgeon that had the operation procedure done 1,000 times before. I would feel more safe. However, that does not mean if you're the new agent, you can't win, because in business, in real estate, we're not doing eye surgery, we're selling energy. Big difference. So if you're the associate that ending up being at the presentation, your conversation's much different. You're not going to sit there and say, I've been in real estate for 20 years and I've done this process 2,500 times and I've got 47 listings on the market. You can't say that. What you're going to say is this, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I've got to let you know. Every morning I wake up, I've got to prove myself in this market, because whilst I've been in real estate only a relatively short period of time, we as a team have been in it together for 28 years collectively. So you're always using the team we. In addition to that, I've got to let you know, every morning I wake up, I need the marketplace to know I'm getting results. So when you give me your opportunity to represent you, it is a privilege, not an entitlement like some other agents in this area. In addition to that, at any one time, I'm only working with a small amount of properties. 2 or 3. Which means I'm fully focused on you. I don't have to be like Aldi, become everything to everyone. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I've got to let you know there's not going to be a real estate agent in this marketplace that's going to work harder than me to get you a result. When can I get to work? Your strategy is new business energy when you're a new agent. That's what you've got to do, right? That's what you've got to do. But keep replacing the word I with we, right? Because everyone's got, I think you've got 3 stories in real estate. You've got the Plum story, you got your story, and you got the hybrid story. So you've got 3 stories. So team, after you have the conversations, the relationships, you get the listings, you then vendor manage them. And then once you get them from accepting 950 instead of 1,050,000, sold. Dan, this process, how long does it take? How long can it take?
From point of listing?
No, from the day you start having conversations.
Oh, it could take, let's say, I'd say on average it's a 2-year game.
Yeah.
It's 2 years. From first meeting them to then getting that property sold, on average 2 years.
fucking not many. Hey, how many jobs do you know that you're starting and you're getting 2 years before you get paid?
Yeah.
But I've got to tell you one thing, you do a lot of it, pays fantastic.
And the thing is this part here, right? This part here, this is 10 hours. From the point that you sign the Form 6 to selling it, it's roughly 10 hours. That's including 4 open homes, a photo shoot, a building and pest evaluation, a couple of extra buyer appointments, and 6 to 8 vendor management calls of 10 minutes each. That whole process of actually selling the house is 10 hours of your time. But that 10 hours took 2 years to get. 2 years of those hard, cold calls, those door knocks, those conversations with people to try and get a foot in, to eventually just getting in the door, to then dropping them more information, to telling them whenever there are listings come on the market in their street, letting them know of all the sold properties that have happened in the year, contacting them every 6 months again to see if they want another update. All of those, that whole nurturing process that you continuously go through, and that can sometimes take 8 or 9 years. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes you get really lucky and it takes a week. You never know when you're going to get paid, but this is the part that everyone wants to avoid because they don't get instant gratification. Everyone wants to be paid today for the work that they're doing today. Real estate doesn't work like that.
So team, we know this is what you've got to be doing. We went through the 3 reasons why people struggle with it. We went through the reasons why we call them. May I make the suggestion that having the list of people in front of your face before you start a call session is super critical. And before we lead into a break, because we're going to have a break for a few minutes, I want Dan, if I can, to role play a few phone calls.
Let's do it.
Okay? Because I think it's good to not just talk about, hey, you should be doing it, but let's go and see what these phone calls sound like in real life. Okay? So can I, before we kick it off, I'd like to put it to the audience here. What are the reasons we call people? Give me some shout outs. Reasons for calls. Just listed? So Dan, get ready. These are the calls you're going to do.
Nice.
Just listed. Anything else, did you say?
Just sold.
Just sold. So just listed, just sold calls. These are your 2-pack. Your 2-pack is always this, because there is always properties that are being just listed and there's always been properties just sold. And I want to let you know, they don't have to be properties that are done by Plum. You want to become the newsreader. You're like the Channel 9 newsreader, giving people the source of information. And you interpret that information and give your view. Okay, any other reasons why we call people?
Auction result.
Auction result. There was a result of a property, which can fall into the just sold call because it's, yeah, but an auction's got, you know, a lot more high profile because it's been marketed condensedly for 30 days. So let's call it auction results anyway. Because I actually can tell you, one of the reasons, Dan, people don't make calls is they don't know what to say, right? So we're trying to find angles for these calls. Why other reasons can we call? Sorry? A market update. This is what the marketplace is doing. More shout outs?
Anniversary calls.
Sorry?
Anniversary calls.
Anniversary calls. So Richard, anniversary, like their wedding anniversary, their what anniversary?
Anniversary of purchasing the house.
The anniversary of the purchase of the house. Okay, the anniversary of the purchase of the house. Hey, it is I've got to tell you, I don't get an anniversary call. I bought my property on the 24th of December. I remember it was Christmas Eve. I don't get a phone call. There's a lot of deals done that last week. Everyone wants to sort of get deals done before Christmas. So what are the other reasons?
Long term on the market.
Sorry, it's
Like a property that's been on the market long term.
that property
Yeah, their property's been on the market for say,
with another agent.
with another agent.
Okay, so beautiful. So this is called an expired listing call. You're chasing the listing because it's been on the market for a while and it might be expiring. So Dan, there's so many reasons to call people. Is there anything? Is it one other reason? Sorry? We're in your area, and it could be in your area. We're actually doing an appraisal on your neighbour's house. We're going to be there anyway. We're doing the appraisal for the whole street anyway, right? Or I want to let you know, I just came to visit one of your neighbours and I'm doing a report for them. And I just thought to myself, while I was doing a report for them, I thought I might do a report for you. How open-minded would you be that? So we're going to be in your area. Okay, so Dan?
So we're going to focus on cold calls here, okay? And I think the easiest ones to focus around are just listed, just sold. They're seriously the easiest calls you can make. There's always something, and it doesn't even, as Tom said, it doesn't even have to be a property that your office has just sold. If you haven't sold one in the street, but you want to call the street, find something that another agent sold. You don't necessarily need to mention who sold it or whatever. You're just calling to say, hey, there's been a recent sale in your street, and I thought you as an owner in the street would like to know because it could have impacted the price of your property. I'm just going to give a little layout about a cold call to follow, like structure-wise. All right, and this is just so, you know. And as you do more and more calls, you'll just get used to this structure, and it becomes very fluent. But the best way to do a cold call is to start off with an icebreaker. All right, an icebreaker is a way just to lighten the mood, try and get the person interested in talking to you. Just see whether or not their mood is even there for you to continue a conversation. An icebreaker can be, so a really easy icebreaker that I like to do is pretending that I already know the person that I'm calling, okay? And catching them off guard. This is a really easy one. I mean, you can do things like if it's state of origin day and you're calling, you could just say, Tom, Queensland or New South Wales today, what do you reckon? If someone called you and did that, what would you do? Say, fuck off and hang up? No, you'd go... Likely you would answer the question and think, who's this calling me? And you're catching them off guard. You know, I used to make calls on Valentine's Day, and the first thing I say is, Tom, I just wanted to say happy Valentine's Day because I don't have one. And he would instantly go, like, the person on the other phone is like, who is it? Oh, who is this? It's Daniel from LJ Hooker just down the road, or it's Daniel from Plum Property from just down the road.
So Dan, I want to share this story about the icebreaker because I just thought about a call that I got a few days ago from a guy from Marriott, the Marriott. You know when they sell, do you ever get phone calls being sold, those hot Marriott memberships, right? So I get this phone call and he goes, hi Tom, how have you been? Straight away, there's the assumption that he must know me. So automatically I move from being a prospect protecting myself to someone that's going to have a conversation with someone that might know me, so I'll be nice. So we speak for about 2-3 minutes. And then it's difficult to retract, isn't it? Because when they're being nice to you, you reciprocate.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't want to contradict who you are as a person.
Absolutely. So the best thing you can do is try and get the person on the other end of the phone, to actually think that they should already know you. So an icebreaker is the best way to start. The worst way to start is Tom picks up the phone and I say, hello Tom, it's Daniel Lee here from Plum Property. I'm giving you a call because instantly what's the thought in his head if he's busy? Fuck, cold call, don't want to talk to this person, what do I do? How do I get them off the phone as quick as possible? Yeah, before I even get what I want out, sorry mate, look, I'm in a meeting, I've got to go, yeah, call me another bang.
And I think if they understand, I don't like the Amway approach to phone calls where you're being slippery sliding and you're using buzzwords, right? I do actually say, like, if you actually think you're treating them like students, you shouldn't be sitting there hard closing them every phone call. And I think it's totally acceptable to say to them, hey, I know you're busy and I know you're not selling, so I'll be brief. because what you're doing is you're getting rid of the two things that they probably have got predisposed that you're going to hit them with, right? And you need to make them feel safe, right? And I also, Dan, want to say is, if they do say, I'm busy right now, listen, meet them where they're at. Don't sit there and push them just because you've got a target to do 40 connections and get 2 appointments per session. Don't sit there. Meet them where they're at and say, oh, I thought that could be the case. That's why I'm calling to ring you back when a time is not busy. How's today at 5 o'clock, or would you have a better time tomorrow morning, right? Don't be painful. I think sometimes by being painful and over chasing, you burn people.
Definitely. But there are ways that you can still keep them on the phone for a little bit longer, all right? After the icebreaker, really good thing to do is thank them and appreciate them for the phone call before you start talking. Nothing's more annoying than a cold caller that calls you up and you don't want to talk to them and they just keep blabbing and blabbing and blabbing and you're just like, mate, I don't want to fucking talk to you, and they're just like not giving you an inch, right? That's really annoying. So thank them for their time and say, I've got something really important to tell you if you've just got 30 seconds, okay?
By the way, we're going to do a phone.
I'm going to show you how I do this all in one call, okay? So thank the person on the other phone. Then you've got to have a reason for the phone call. Okay, so your reason is one of these things. It's a just sold property in the area. It's a just listed property in the area. It's an auction result. It's a market change that you want to let them know of. But you're calling them with some valuable information that is relative to them. Okay, so make sure it is a piece of information that is going to be interesting. Don't call them up about a property in a different suburb that you just sold, because that's not interesting to them. They want to know about something that is relative to their property. So it has to be something within the immediate area that you genuinely feel is interesting to them. Again, don't be calling up a 5-bedroom homeowner and saying, hey, I've got a really important piece of information. I just sold a 2-bed, 2-bath on your street. What the hell has that got to do with my 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, right? Give them some piece of information that may be of value to them. So a property that sits within the price range of their home or has similar characteristics. Okay, so that is the reason for your call. So that would be, Tom, I'll just have 30 seconds to give you a really important piece of information that affects the value of your home. There's a property that you may have noticed over the road that now has a sold sticker on it outside on the signboard at number 15. We just sold that one. Did you see that signboard? Asking a question, keep the conversation going. So that's the reason for the call, which then engages the conversation. After you start talking and you're building rapport, and you can keep this rapport going for as long as possible. Talk about the market, talk about the property, ask questions that person. If they want to talk, they'll talk. You'll notice if they want to shut the conversation down, then you'll need to move on to your offer fairly quickly, which is the next part. Okay, so after the reason of the call, you've got your offer. The offer is, hey, whilst I've got you, we're actually, at the moment, updating every single person in your street with the current value of their home. We do this once a year for every owner, and we're going to be in your street tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. Would any of those days suit you for us to pop over for 2 minutes and give you an update like we're doing for all your neighbours? You may have noticed in my offer there what I've just done is I've made it really easy for the owner to say yes for 2 reasons. Number one, I use something called the Joneses theory. The Joneses theory being, people will do what everyone else is doing. People don't want to be singled out, okay? If everyone else is getting a price update, well, I may as well get one too, right? The other reason people don't want an appraisal usually is because they don't want to waste your time. I'm not selling right now. I had an appraisal last year. They don't want to owe you anything. So being in the area already, letting them know it only takes 5 minutes, this is part of my job, all of this kind of dialogue, making it really easy for them to say yes because they're not wasting your time. And people often say no to an appraisal, even though they are quite curious about what their house might be worth. They don't want to say yes because they're not selling right now and they feel kind of bad that they might put you out of your way to come to their house, meet with them, and then they're just like going, yeah, well, thanks for your report and your hour of time. I'm not selling. And although for us, we're like, yes, I got in a door. That's awesome. For them, they're thinking, this poor bastard's just wasting an hour of his time. I'm not even selling. So we need to help them understand that it's actually for our benefit that us coming through is a good thing for both us and them. And that it's really easy. We're going to be there anyway. Your neighbours are doing it. It takes 5 minutes. This is part of my job. So after the offer, you're going to get some objections. Common objections. Throw some at me. I've just asked you for an appraisal. Hey, I'm going to be in your street on Thursday doing appraisals. Would you have 5 minutes for me to pop around and give you an update?
Oh, sorry, mate, I'm busy.
I'm busy. Perfect. Get that a lot? There's 7 of the most common objections. Let's get like 4 of them out of the way.
Not selling.
Not selling. All the time.
I already have an agent.
Already have an agent? Awesome.
I am an agent.
That one you can just hang up the phone straight away. All right? So already have an agent?
Not interested.
Just not interested?
I'll be going out in a box.
Going out in a box. That's a yeah.
I already manage the market. I know what's happening in my area.
Or maybe like I've already had an appraisal or already.
People that aren't in real estate.
Oh yeah. Already know what's going on. Okay, cool. I already know the market. Okay, one more.
Recently had an appraisal.
Recently had an appraisal. Okay. Well, I had an appraisal.
What if they ask you which neighbour's house you're going to?
Sorry, for confidentiality reasons, I can't tell you. Just the same as when I come to your house, and if someone asks me which neighbour I've been, I'm not going to tell them that I've been to your house.
And can I just, Dan, at the start of this session, you spoke about where, I think something, or you might not have said it, but it sparked my mind. Where did you get my data from? Actually, I heard it. Someone said it. Where did you get my data from? And that does come up. And I think you don't have to hide the fact we subscribe to databases and you're on those databases, right? There's no problem. RP data, ID for me, price finder, whatever it is. You're on that database, right? It's not like I'm a spy for ASIO or something, right? We subscribe to databases. But anyway, are they the most common, Dan? We're going to break in 5 minutes because I'm mindful of time and you guys needing toilet breaks. So let's do this call.
Yeah, okay, cool. Again, another point on that, where'd you get my phone number? A really easy one to say is, I'm not sure exactly where we got your phone number, but have you ever been to an open home before? Okay, 99% of people have been to an open home before and then they provided their number.
That's a good one.
Okay, have you ever been to an open home before? They can't remember who, where, why, which agent it was or whatever.
They can't even remember the ones they bought.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, have you ever been to an open home before? Oh, yes, possibly, but I don't remember with you. And it's like, it may have been with us, it may not have been. Look, we're in a business where we share databases with other agents. If you have provided your details at some point, it may have got across to you. But listen, if you don't want us to call you ever again, it's really easy for me to erase your number from the database. Would you like me to do that? Simple. Really, really easy way to get around that. Okay, but after that, it doesn't matter what they say here, okay? The thing is, what we're calling about is something very valuable. We have information about their property and we can give them a current update on their home. There aren't many people out there in the world who don't want to know what the value of their home is right now. And I can tell you, if you called someone up right now and you said, "G'day Tom, I've got this computer screen right here and it tells me the exact value of your home. Would you like me to tell you what it says?" How many people are going to say, "No, I'm not interested"? 99.9% of people would like to know what that screen says. What is the current value of my home? So why is it then that every time we call, people give us all these excuses as to why they don't want a current updated appraisal on their home? They do want to know the value of it, but they don't want it from you. For two reasons. Number one, they don't want to waste your time. And number two, they don't want to owe you anything. So if you can help them to understand that, A, it's not a waste of my time, this is part of my job. I update everyone once a year on the value of the home. That's actually 80% of my job as the local real estate agent, is to provide relevant information to owners about the value of their property. And every time I do a valuation, I actually get slightly better at my job. So you'd actually be doing me a huge favor. Number two is they don't want to owe you anything. Okay, people get scared that if they're going to get an appraisal from you, that this guy's going to bug me, or this lady's going to be knocking on my door every second day with a buyer saying, hey, you ready to sell? And so we need to make them aware that, don't worry, this appraisal, it's nothing serious. Everyone's getting it. I'm not going to bug you. I'm not going to ask you if you're selling. You've already made it perfectly clear to me that you're not selling the property. But hopefully one day when you are prepared to sell, you can pick up the phone and call me for some advice. Okay? Assure them that you are not going to bug them, because that's the other main reason that people do not want the appraisal from you. But they'll throw any excuse at you, but won't necessarily tell you the truth. They'll say they're busy, they'll say they're not selling, they'll say they know, blah, blah, blah. But all of those are hidden excuses for those two reasons, okay? But it doesn't matter what, if you can get really, really good at handling all of these objections and turning it around into a reason why they should have you through, and you can book more appointments from your calls. I would say this, if there is a silver bullet to real estate, this is it. Being able to call someone, have them give you an excuse, a reason as to why they don't need an update, and then turn that into a reason why they should have an update, and turning that no into a yes. If you become a master at that, you will become a fantastic real estate agent. Okay, so let's do a call.
Let's do it.
Okay, you're a vendor, I'm an agent. I'm calling because I just sold 1 Smith Street. You live at number 5 Smith Street. Okay? Ring, ring.
Hello.
Tom, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Tom, it's Daniel Lee from Plum Property here. I'm so glad you picked up. I called you last week and you always seem to be busy. You're a busy man.
Yeah, been under the pump the last few weeks.
Mate, I understand that entirely. Look, Tom, I really, really appreciate your time, and I won't take too much of it because I know it's valuable. But if I've got 30 seconds with you, I've got a really important piece of information to tell you.
Shoot.
Number 5 Smith Street, it's just over the road from yours. You may have seen a sold sign sticking up out of the ground.
Yep,
there.
yep,
You have
yep,
seen it?
Yep, I know the house.
Awesome. I've got some fantastic news. We just sold that property, so you'll see the sold sticker go up tomorrow. Amazing result. And I'm telling you this because it actually, I think, has affected the price of your property. So we may, because of this sale, see a percentage increase in the current value of your property. So I just want to tell you a little bit about that. Is that okay?
Sure.
Awesome, mate. We had that on the market for 2 weeks. We had 60 groups come through that property. I've got a number of buyers who missed out, unfortunately. We're looking for something else in the area for them, and I want to talk to you about that. If you know any of your neighbours that might be selling.
Not really.
No? Okay, well, if you do, please let me know or pass on my name to them, because I've got buyers, really lovely people that want to move into your area. But as I said, we had 60 groups through. It is sold. We had multiple offers, and you know what? We actually got $50,000 more than the owners were hoping to achieve for the property. And that was based on our...
Is the market going up again? I heard it was dropping a bit.
Listen, Tom, you know what? Based on that sale, I think this area, this particular area, your street, it's really strong at the moment. There are other areas that are seeing, weaker interest, but it's a really great street. It's quiet, it's close to the shopping centre, you've got the bus stop around the corner, the local school's not far away, and all of these were reasons which were, the buyers were really loving the specific location. So I think you've bought in a really good spot, and I actually think prices are holding steady. And based on this sale, I would say that you may have seen a slight increase in the property. But what I'd like to do for you, as I'm doing for everyone else in the street at the moment, is I'm actually just giving everyone a current update on the value of their property. I like to do it once a year just to keep you in touch with how things are going. It's nothing serious. You don't need to be selling or anything like that. But I'm going to be in your street Thursday, Friday between 3 and 6. can I borrow you for 2 minutes just to have a quick look at your home and give you an update?
Yeah, listen, we'll be here as long as you know we're not selling. We're far from it. Yeah?
Mate,
Yeah.
you've made that perfectly clear. I'm not going to be calling you and asking you if you're going to be selling or things like that. Maybe one day down the track, 3-4 years down the track, you may want to move and you may want some advice. You'll have my number. You can give me a call when you're ready. Okay, but I'm not going to be making that call to you asking if you're selling. Okay, so, but I think it's some really valuable information for you. I'd love to meet you as a local agent, and that way you can get an update on your home. I can get slightly better at my job, and now you've got a number of someone you can call for free advice whenever you like.
Beautiful.
Awesome. 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock on Thursday
4
or Friday.
o'clock.
4 o'clock Thursday. I'll get your name, number, and email. Bang, book that in. Okay.
Beautiful.
Now that was particularly easy. Tom didn't really go very hard at me then.
I reckon you get good people, you get average people, you get fucking crazy people, right?
Yep. Now that was, you know, a call like that might be one in 20. Right? Realistically, that's a 1 in 20 call. Other calls, I might get the conversation, but I'm going to get more of these objections thrown at me. Okay? They might talk to me for a little bit, but they're not really interested in me coming around, and I'm going to have to try a little bit harder to get an edge in.
And you know, and the point is, team, when you sit down there for 2-3 hours, you're not expecting every call to become an appointment, right? You're like, this call was worth it, right? This call was worth it. It's better than just sitting in the office pretending to be busy or driving the streets aimlessly.
That call there makes it all worth it, right? That appointment booking. Now, that could be, in 2 hours of calls, you could maybe expect 2 calls if you're lucky to be that good and that easy.
And this, and Dan, let's be clear. This phone call has not resulted into a listing presentation, because I've qualified. I'm not selling. He's gone in there, and this is basically a price update. This is this.
Yeah.
This is this, right? This is not this. He's not coming over to say, oh, Tom, the commission is 2.75%, the marketing program is 5,750, this is our plan. That's not the conversation he's coming over. The conversation he's coming over to have is to get me to like him, because likability improves when there is 2 people sitting in a living room. That's the reason why.
If they want to go to this, they'll tell you. If you get lucky, which will be very, very infrequent, very rare, where you're going to call someone and they're going to be in that moment of, oh, thank God you called. I'm just thinking about selling my property in 2 weeks. Please come over and let's talk about marketing and commission. I tell you, I've made over 150,000 cold calls in my life, and I think that's happened to me twice in all my years of cold calls. And I did cold calls for years and years and years. And I think that may have happened 2 times in my life where I've actually called someone and they've said, oh, actually, I'm perfect timing. I'm thinking of doing something really soon. Can you come over and talk about it? It's not the goal of the call. Okay, the goal of the call is just to get a chance to build this relationship so we can further nurture, so that every time we now market and we waste our time on a Facebook post that they see, they go, oh, there's Daniel. I know Daniel. What's he up to? Every time I do a letterbox drop after that, they throw out every other agent's letterbox drop because they don't have a relationship and they don't know who they are. But they see mine and they say, oh, what's Daniel up to? I like Daniel. I remember Daniel. Daniel came through my house. What's he doing? Oh, he's busy. Yeah, chuck that in the bin. But they're looking at me, right? They know who I am. My marketing now means something because I've actually got the fundamental relationship down pat with that person. So let's do another call, Tom. Now be nasty with me,
Okay.
right? Because this is what we're going to get more often. We're going to get people saying no. We're going to get people giving us these objections. I'm busy. I'm not selling. I've had an appraisal. I've had an agent over. This is what you're going to get more of. And untrained agents who haven't made many calls, they give up here. Okay, they say hello, they say that they got a just listed call, they say, would you like an appraisal? Oh no, I've already had one, thanks. Oh, have you? Oh, well, thanks a lot. Good luck to you, bye. And they never challenge themselves on the conversation, right? Remember, everyone actually wants that appraisal. They want to know what their house is worth. You are the holder of some really important information. So one of these excuses here is not a reason to end the conversation. All right, Tom, ring, ring.
Hello.
Tom, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Tom, it's your best friend,
Who's that?
Dan Lee from Plum Property.
Yeah, how you going?
You
Listen.
remember me? You came through an open home once.
Yeah, listen, I'm tied up at the moment. Can you give us a ring back later?
I can. I absolutely can. I could call you at 5 o'clock, or I could have 30 seconds of your time right now, and I really appreciate it, Tom. Can I please have 30 seconds?
If it's quick.
It's really quick. It's a really important piece of information that I think you need to know, because you live on Smith Street, right?
Yep.
Well, Tom, as I said really quickly, 5 Smith Street, it's just sold. There's a sold sign standing up outside there. It's just across the road from you. You've seen it, right?
Yep.
Okay, mate, we had 50 groups through there. It sold 50 grand above the market value that we predicted. So I just called to tell you some really good news, and that is I think your house has gone up in value.
Happy days. but
Happy days.
We're never going to sell, man.
That's amazing. I didn't call you about selling. If I was, I'd be talking about marketing and listing your property and my commission rates, but we're not doing that. But while I've got you, I just wanted to let you know that at the moment I'm updating all the owners on your street, because I've had a couple of neighbours ask me, wow, great price, what's my house worth? So I just thought I may as well update everyone in the street on the value of their home, right? So it's only going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to be on your street tomorrow, Friday, giving these updates.
Man,
Can I
listen, it's not for me, man.
What's not for you?
An appraisal, we're fine. They're going to carry us out in a box.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Well, I hope you live to 170. But
Thank
you know,
you.
when you finally cark it, right?
Oops.
When you finally cark it, which is a long time, I'll probably be long gone before you are. Who knows who's going to need that information? Perhaps your family, perhaps your estate. I don't know, but at any time, it is really important to know what your property is worth. Would you agree? It is one of your most important
Yeah, if
assets.
we need it, we'll just get one done. But I really appreciate it. Anyway, I've got to get going, huh?
You got to get going, Tom. I would challenge you to think that
This is real life, right?
I would challenge you to think that this appraisal that I can give you is going to surprise you. It's going to surprise the value that you think it's worth. Tom, can I ask you what you think your house is worth?
I reckon at least $1 million.
$1 million. I'm going to write that down. Tom, if I go away right now and just find some comparable sales, do you mind if I come back to you with some comparable sales and just see if I think your opinion is correct?
Yeah, no problem. Send it to me.
Okay, I'll send it to you. Do you mind if I drop it round to you tomorrow when I'm on your street?
Yeah,
I'll bring the
first.
report. I'll bring the report. I'll knock on your door. I'll just give you the report because you said $1 million. I challenge you. I think it's worth slightly more than that. But I'll knock on your door tomorrow when I'm on the street and I'll give you a report and I'll see if your opinion's correct. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. If I don't catch you, can I send it via email?
Yep.
Awesome. I'll grab that. I've got your mobile. Thanks for your time, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Guys, there's always a reason. There's always a reason. There's some way that we can deliver this information. He wants to know. He just said yes. He wants to know, right? But he didn't really want to know. He doesn't want to get to know me that much right now. He doesn't want to stay in touch because he's not selling, but he still wants to know the value of his property.
And the good news is, it's a level playing field in real estate. I'm going to be like that to every other agent that calls me, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about it, right? I'm going to be like that to every other agent that calls me. And I think, Dan, as we give people a bit of a break, it's this ability to get comfortable being uncomfortable in those conversations. And I'm going to tell you one thing. No training plan survives collision with reality. You could sit there and you could say, do this, say that, say that. But the bottom line is, everything is predetermined. You just play the mathematics. And if you can nail what we were talking about with Dan this morning, if you can nail this process, you know what? You become a better negotiator. Fee cutting is not a big issue. I'll tell you why. You go to someone's listing presentation and they say, oh, will you do it? The other agent said that they would do it at 1.3%. And you'll probably just say, I think if that's the most important thing for you, you should go with that agent. Because you've still got another 10 listing presentations to go to because of all the work that you're doing. But if you haven't been doing this process and you go to one listing presentation every 2 months and someone says, will you drop your fee to 1.5%? You've heard it. Don't be desperate. But how can you fake being desperate, right? Like if you're desperate, right? You need that listing. So nailing this process. Team, we're going to have a break only for a couple of minutes.
However, there's more than prospecting to real estate. And Dan and I sat down and I said, you know, what are some of the challenges of the people sitting in this room in this market? So in real estate, we get two kinds of markets. You got the market that you got the wind behind you that supports you. The market that basically is in the press saying buy or you'll be paying 100 grand more, and this creates fear of missing out. You don't have to be a real estate agent to work in fear of missing out. All you do is have a model which is called list sell. List sell. That happens once or twice every decade. Normal real estate is list, reduce, sell. List, reduce, sell. And now, Dan tells me from his helicopter view, a lot of the markets have moved from list sell to list reduce sell. Can I get a show of hands if that has happened in your marketplace? Please. So some people. Whose marketplace is still, if you list them, there is an abundance of buyers out there. Show of hands. Whose is very, very balanced? It's hard to get a listing, it's hard to get a sale, and you just got to grind. Show of hands. Okay. So team, Dan said good things to touch on is set up the listing for success right at the start when you go and list it.
If you win the first hour, you win the campaign, as they say.
So Dan, what does setting it up for success mean to you?
To me, it means not over-promising so that you'll under-deliver during the campaign. Selling hope, but not cementing an unrealistic price at the listing presentation just to get the listing. That can work for you in a very, very, very hot market where...
Stop for 1 second. Can you please all write this line out? It will help you so much. It'll change your whole philosophy to selling, particularly listing presentations. Sell them what they want, but give them what they need. Big difference. They want hope. They want aspiration.
They want possibility. They want to be given the benefit of the doubt. There's a chance. And it does happen sometimes. So somehow we need to deliver a world-class pitch that gives them what they want, but we give them a process is what they need. Right? It's a big difference because what they want is hope, possibility. And Dan, that's not easy, isn't it? Because you're tiptoeing around the magic $64 million question. What's it worth? Not easy.
So we're going to touch on that. What else does setting it up for success mean to you right from the outset?
Setting up expectations on communication is a big one. And I think agents miss that a lot. We get carried away with talking about price, getting the form signed, talking about the strategy, but the client may have different thoughts about who's going to be doing my open homes, how many times am I going to be contacted, how am I going to be contacted. So really explaining your team's process.
Can I ask, who in this room at the moment or in the last year uses a set to sell meeting in their process? 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think 5. I think what I want to do is just bring some awareness to that conversation, because I think if you can nail this 5-minute conversation, your life becomes so much better. It's one of these things in life that it's only a small amount, but it delivers a lot of value. A little bit like the Pareto's principle, that a small thing delivers significant value. So Dan, let's reverse the role. I'll be the agent. I've just listed your property.
Yep.
I've signed it up.
Yep.
And I also know that a lot of people like to do the set to sell meeting as a separate meeting, and that's fine, but it can get challenging if you've got 40, 50 listings that you're coming back doing a listing presentation. So I'm just going to use the listing presentation as the place where I'm doing it, but you have signed a Form 6.
Okay.
I've done a proper listing presentation, you have signed the Form 6, and now I'm going to
Have a conversation before I leave. It only goes for 5 minutes, right? And I just want to set it up on this point, setting up the listing for success. Dan, thank you so much for the opportunity to represent you.
Tom, I'm excited. I know you're the man for the job. That's why we had you over. Excited to get started.
And it's been a 2-year relationship before we've got here today.
It's what I always liked about you. You know, you weren't pushy. You know, I can't remember the first time you came over. It would have been 2-3 years ago. And you're the only agent that's, you know, kept in touch with me and not been pushy and always kept me up to date. And that's why I called you back.
Perfect. Dan, before I leave here today, I often find that if I spend an extra 5 or 7 minutes with the owners before I leave, I can clear and clarify things that are going through their mind, and I can also give them the heads up on the unexpected, because it's surprises that create issues, right?
Okay.
And I don't want, you know, you not to be aware of what can happen, and I'm going to give you the heads up.
Sure.
So, Dan, firstly, I want to let you know that I want to be communicating with you on an ongoing basis,
Giving you buyer intel feedback. We don't have that today, but I will have that very soon. I'm already incorporating a 7-day buyer intel strategy meeting next week, because we're going to get 3 or 4 groups through. So I'm putting that in. Can we put that in for Friday?
Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful. But in addition to that, I want to be talking to you on a weekly basis. Can I ask you, how often do you want me to be speaking to you, and what is your preferred method? Would you prefer to catch up once a week face to face? Are you one of these people that likes doing Zooms? Do you like FaceTime? Do you like phone calls? What would you prefer to have our official weekly meeting?
Mate, I mean, if we're talking about an offer or something important, you can come over, but I just want to be kept up to date. I'm good with text and phone, so whatever works.
Perfect. Well, what I'll do is every Tuesday, 2 o'clock to 2:15, I'll put that in as our weekly feedback meeting.
Okay.
Yeah? And in addition to that, any big news, offers, anything that's come up, that's a separate, I'll call you direct.
Sure.
Yeah? The second thing is I want to let you know that there's one bit of the job that I don't like in real estate, and that is that there's a few buyers out there that have heard about rates that are being so high, and they think that there's a lot of vendors in pain, and they're an opportunistic buyer. They do give us offers, and sometimes those offers are low, and I want to let you know, by law, I'm compelled to give you that offer. So please, if I give you an offer that you're unhappy with, please understand, I'm not recommending you take it. I'm giving you buyer intel and buyer feedback on an offer. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay, I understand. But I don't want any, if it's not $1 million, I'm not selling,
I get it, I
Yeah.
understand.
So, team, what you're saying to them is don't shoot the messenger.
I'm the messenger. And you can actually use those words. I'm letting you know, I'll be giving you the message. Please don't shoot the messenger.
The third thing, Dan, I want to let you know is
Occasionally, 1 in 10 times, we get a really good offer in the first week. That offer comes in from a buyer that's been sitting on the database. Their property that they've been looking for is in your street. You come on and they just buy it.
and I've got to let you know, sometimes our best offers are in the first week.
But often our owners turn around and you know what they say? Early days. Oh, that's a good start.
And we never get that price again. I want to let you know, please understand,
Dan, listen to the words. It's not how long you have been on the market, it's how long the buyer has been in the market. So please be mindful. And the reason we have this conversation is you know and I know we get these offers sometimes, they're amazing, and then the owners are saying, good start. And then 6 weeks later they're saying, but we had that 2 months ago. We had more 2 months ago. That's why we have that conversation at the Set to Sell meeting. The next conversation is this. Dan, I want to let you know, there's only 2 reasons why a property doesn't sell. It's either the price is too high or the marketing is poor. At the moment, we're aiming for the stars, and I want to get lots of people through. We might have to sit back and do a review of both price and marketing if we're not hitting the level. I want to let you know, next Saturday, I have an expectation at our first open that we should have 30 groups through for this kind of property in this area at this price point week 1. If we don't get that number, we need to actually sit back and work out why that is. We might have to look at adjusting things and correcting them. Team, Dan and I spoke off camera before. The old sledgehammer approach in real estate is knock them down. Oh, bedrooms are too small, kitchen needs too much work. House actually is on a busy road. What we do is called strategic vendor management. If this happens, we're going to have to do this. as they say, the Stoics say, it's the unexpected that lands heaviest in life. We create expectations from people. Does that make sense? And then the last one, Dan, that you probably cover is this. I want to let you know, if there's something that we do that you're unhappy with, please don't hold it inside. Pick up the phone. Let us know straight away. Fix problems when they're small, team, because I can tell you a little issue that is a stage 1 issue becomes a stage 2 issue, becomes a stage 3 issue. They lose trust. Then there's silence in the relationship, and then you know in your heart and your stomach something's not wrong here. The communication's changed, and they have started a second conversation with another agent who is sitting quietly telling them, I've got buyers, I've got buyers. And that's worth saying. The last thing that you'd probably say as you're leaving is, Dan, if an agent rings you up and tells you they have buyers, let me tell you, get their name and number. Give me a call. I'll give them part of my commission and give them access to the property, and they don't have to do anything else. That takes the bullshit out of that story.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
So team, the set to sell meeting all of a sudden in 2025 becomes non-negotiable part of your process at the listing presentation. Our job is to set them up for success right from the outset.
Can I touch on something
100%,
as well?
Dan.
On the set to sell, quite often an agent who's out on their own and then they get an associate, possibly move to 2 associates, and they don't change how they're actually running their open homes and inspections and feeling like they need to be the agent at the open home at all the inspections, because that's what the client wants. You know, I'm the agent. I should be at the open home every single time. I should be the agent showing the property every single time. That's not a good way to scale your sales business. So this is all part of setting up the listing for success at the beginning. If you have a team, at least an associate, possibly 2, you need to let the owner know how your team operates. So Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, as you can tell, our team, we sell a lot of property. Now I know my face is on the signboard, my face is on the ad, but it's actually, you know, my fantastic team here, Sarah and James, they help me to run a lot of the buyers because we get so many buyer inquiries. If I was out there running all the buyers through every property, I wouldn't even have time to sit here in this living room and have this conversation with you. So of course I'm going to be there at important open homes where there's going to be lots of people. I'm going to be the one negotiating the contracts when there's an offer, when there's an interested party. I'll be the one that's negotiating that because that's my real skill. But to be honest, when we're at an open home or when we're at an inspection, there's not that much selling that goes on. You know, we're not doing a hard sell on the property there. We're being polite. We're showing the buyer around the property. We're showing them the features. My whole team can do that exceptionally well. They've all been trained by me. So on many of the open homes, you may not see me there, but I'm very much involved with all the buyers that are interested. I'll be following up. I'm the one negotiating with you and the buyer, but it's my team. We're a team that make this happen. Okay.
So I've got to say, teams, and Dan, I'm glad you raised it because I know that there are some people in this room that is an issue for them. So other agents go in there and tell them, hey, if you list, you know, with you, oh, she won't be doing all the open. She's got a team, an army of people, and I totally get it. So what you do is you don't hide that. You actually have that as one of your benefits in your listing presentation. You actually cover it. You confront it. What you resist will persist. What you befriend, you'll transcend. You confront it and you actually say, hey, I want to let you know. One of the other valuable things about going with my team is when you get me, you get we. Just like you have a medical team, like, you know, you have a medical team, you've got a guy that does the operation, you've got the person that puts you to sleep, you've got the person that fills in the rego form when you go in there, you've got the nurse that does it. Just like you get on an aeroplane, I'm going to get one on today, there's going to be a flight, there's going to be the pilot, there's going to be flight attendants, there's going to be people that check you in,
And you basically explain that they are better off having a team. And I've got to tell you, Dan, it appears that the best models in real estate that are making the most amount of money is a real estate agent that employs a leverage agent underneath that is able to leverage the work that that person does. Because there is a lot of business that slips through the cracks because you're not talking to all the inquiry that's coming in. And that's what that person does. And what your assistant, associate, leverage agent, call it what you like, does is really good at picking up those non-immediate sellers and getting them on there as a price update nurture in that contact bit, in that circle that we said that you're nurturing them there. And what the lead agent is doing is working with immediate sellers and immediate buyers and buyers that are looking to make offers. That's the model.
And when you first get an associate after being an agent for many years and doing everything yourself, and then you get an associate or two, it is hard to release control sometimes, feel like your team is going to do as good a job at you at these open homes or at these inspections. But, that really is the way to scale your business. You've got to have trust in your team. You've got to involve your team in your listing presentations, get the client comfortable with the people that you're working with so that, they feel just as comfortable with your associate showing someone through as you. The worst thing you can do is have a team, sign someone up with the expectation that you are doing everything, and then try and, do those open homes and not be there without telling them, and then get caught. And then they're like, oh, were you at that open home today? And you weren't, and you didn't set up that expectation that your whole team helps with everything. So it's not just setting up the price expectation, it's setting up the expectation of how you're running the whole thing, right? And other agents will use that against you if you're a big team. If you're a single agent, you use that as your advantage is you get me, I do everything. When you're a team, your advantage is, if you go with someone that doesn't have a team, they can't do everything themselves, so they'll let buyers slip through. They won't be able to show anyone at any time. They'll only, they've got too much on their plate for one person, so they're going to miss things. So you've got to use your strengths to your advantage, right? And so, finding those little nuances that you can say, yeah, I've got a big team, I'm not doing everything, but that's to your advantage. When you're a single agent, yeah, I don't have a big team, but you get me, I'm doing everything, the buck stops with me, that's an advantage. Use the things to your advantage in the listing presentation.
Probably the last thing before we break out and get some questions, as we said that we're going to allow for it,
Is in this market, you need to understand the three prices. They're absolutely critical. There are three prices in real estate. There is the hope to get, there is the expected price, and there's a report back price. Three prices. So in this market, the owner wants $1 million. There's a small possibility that they'll get it, but the majority of those owners are probably going to be at the level of around 900. Every owner thinks their property's worth more than it is. Every owner thinks their kids are the best looking and smartest kid. That's life. We just got to accept that's the deal. And our report back figure normally is going to be coming in at around 800 to 850. And your ability to actually keep having this conversation is going to determine on whether you'll get them to go from there to there. Because if you get them to go from there to there, you'll be making sales. The person that determines on whether a property is going to get sold is not the buyer, it's the seller. Because if the seller says yes, at market value, a sale is created. We do not have control over buyers. We do not sit there with a gun and point a gun to a buyer's head and saying, buy it. They need $1 million because they want to move to Noosa. They don't care about that. What they care about is that price is attractive and I'm buying that property. When you adjust the price, a magical buyer appears after there's been silence for a month. So team, last 10 minutes, Q&A, anything, on structure, on social, on mindset, on prospecting, on dialogue, anything, or any observations. Over to you. How to sack a vendor. Quickly. And let's talk about that, because I can tell you, if a vendor is overpriced, does not listen to the feedback, is not investing in marketing, you don't like them and they don't like you, that's not asset. That's a liability, right? And we have to start getting comfortable that this group of people are stopping us from meeting other people. And I think the answer there would be as simple as, after you've been having these meetings and giving them the feedback, if you feel that they're saying, I know what it's worth, I'm not giving it away, and they're constantly saying that, and you've been sending out a weekly report, and you've been giving them offers at this level, and they just won't sit there, and they're saying, no, we want 1.1, I think, and even if you've done strategic vendor management, if we're not getting 8 people through, if we're not getting X amount of people on Ignite, we're going to adjust and they're not listening. I think at some point you say, listen, we're going to try for another 7 days. If we have no luck, I suggest that maybe you should look for another agent at this time, and I'm happy to become your second agent if you don't have any luck. And I think it's as simple as that. And I think you've got to get comfortable about it, because I can tell you, if you've got 60 listings and you've got a lot of those that are unmotivated, often they've given you a low fee, often you'll find they've been very difficult, and sometimes it's the hardest listings that lead to nothing, right? So that would be it. You know, Dan, if there's anything you want to add to that on sacking them, I think it's an internal thing, feeling comfortable, right? Understanding that listings fall into what is called assets and liabilities. An asset is that they're motivated, they listen to your feedback, they've given you good marketing, they like you, and you get on. A liability is they're overpriced, unmotivated, they haven't invested in marketing, they're tight on fee, and you just don't get honest people. And I've got to tell you, the recipe for depression in real estate is waking up on a Monday morning and having 50 of these people. That is an unhappy way to live real estate, you know? Other questions? Okay. So team, I would suggest that a really good thing to do at this time of the year is to write yourself a letter from the future dated the 24th of December 2025, and it's a simple one-pager. And in that one-pager, you're going to write out something along the lines of this: hi, what an amazing year it's been. You're going to write it backwards. You do not need a 178-page business plan. It will help to be detailed, but I think as a minimum, non-negotiable, you need a compelling vision for 2025. You need a letter from the future that is probably 1 page long that says, what an amazing year it's been. This was the year that I sold 100 properties. This is the year that I wrote $1.5 million. This is the year that I added a second assistant and a second associate. This is the year that I upgraded my financial lifestyle and bought my first investment property. This is the year that I put super focus on my health and I got down to 12% body fat. This is the year that I spent 6 weeks with my loved ones in Europe. You need to draw up a letter that excites you so much that when you wake up on a Monday morning, you have a reason on why you're doing what you're doing. I can tell you, the minute you make passion your paycheck, life becomes ELF, effortless, lucrative, and fun. You've got to find the unique psychological fingerprint. We've all got a unique, like if you do something wrong, we've all got a unique fingerprint, but we've also got a unique psychological fingerprint on the inside that drives us. Our values, the things that are our unmet needs. If you can latch onto your unmet needs, you'll pay a high price for success because you want the benefits of the goal. That's what I would be doing, and I would look at it every morning because you want to market to yourself a preview of your life's coming highlights. At the end of this year, Dan, there are people in this room that are going to have had their best year of their life. There's also going to be a lot of people in this room that are going to have a very challenging time. And I pray that you can get through the next 12 months unscathed, and don't cop, because I mean, whether you like it or not, life is life, and we do get punches in the face. We get bad diagnoses, we have bad things that happen to good people. But if you're a person that gets through this year without one of those big punches, I've got to tell you, a happy agent's a successful agent. Choose gratitude over everything else. Dan, I'm going to hand over to you to finish off, and then we're going to go shoot that podcast.
All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot today. I think guys, as we move into this more digital age, I think what we really focused on today was really important. The fundamentals of real estate will never change, and that is building relationships first. So this year, associates, if you're going to be great, if you're going to turn into fantastic agents, if you want to be one of those agents in 5 years' time that has a team, you're one of those agents that's getting interviewed on podcasts, earning $1 to $2 million a year in GCI, then you have to focus on prospecting and getting really good at it. Prospecting is the silver bullet to real estate. It is the foundation of every agent's success, and it needs to be the thing that people focus on the majority of their time, especially new people. Because if you can't get that right and you just find your days doing all sorts of tasks that are not prospecting related, then the reality is that you're an admin person. And that's fine if you want to be an admin person, because admin people are great and they're needed as well. But you're not going to be a great agent if you don't prospect a lot and get really, really good at doing the hard stuff. And the hard stuff really is just getting rejected and getting told no, and really that's not all that hard. So get used to it, guys. Make goals this year of how many appraisals that you're going to commit to getting for your team or for yourself. Stick to that every month. You're going to have good weeks and bad weeks. You're going to have fantastic days on the phone where people want to talk to you and it seems like your dialogue's spot on because everyone you call seems to be receptive. And then you're going to have days where you're going to be on the phone 3 hours, you make 60 connects, and literally no one wants to talk to you, and you're questioning, is something wrong with me? Like, I was doing these calls 3 days ago and it was working, and today no one wants to talk to me. What is with this? It's literally like gambling at the Cass, right? Some days you're just on a roll and you're hitting the numbers, and then other days you lose everything, right? That's the same with cold calls. Thank you, guys. You all relate. Thank you. Thank you to all the degenerate gamblers in here. No, but that's what it's like. I remember firsthand, and I still cold call today these days in a different way. I call agents to talk to them about their businesses and things, and some want to talk to me and some don't. It's the same shit. You're just doing it with property owners. Just the more you do, the better you get at it, and the more you'll start to enjoy it. I honestly, cold calling actually, this sounds fucking crazy, but if you can get to the stage where it's actually fun. Now that sounds impossible, right? Cold calling, fun? No way, Dan, you're crazy. I'm telling you, I did it so much that I got so good at it that it doesn't matter any excuse someone throws at me for what reason they don't need an appraisal, I could turn most people around. And it actually becomes fun. It becomes like this challenging little game. And rude people it's like water off a duck's back. If you can get to that stage, your results are going to skyrocket. You're going to be seeing the results of your appraisals 6 months later. Now that person's calling your team back to go through for a listing presentation, and then all of a sudden you've listed it and you look back and you go, wow, I made that call a year ago to go through that person's property. They didn't really want anything from us then, and now we're listing it. The property's worth $1 million. We're getting paid 25 grand for that. It all started with that phone call back there, right? Guys, if you can focus on that with yourself and your team this year, look at yourselves in 2 years and your piece of paper you've written down will most likely come true. That's it. Thanks so much.
Alrighty, team. Have a great year.
Awesome.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
guys. Thanks for coming today. Thank you to all the guys online for showing up. Love your work.